I don't recall a time in my life that I wasn't immersed in books. I don't know that when I was a child could accurately say I was in the rare book business, but I was obsessed with comic books as a kid in grade school. And so I would like hustle and trade them and barter them and buy one for a nickel and sell it for a dime, even in grade school. Just not the idea to buy and sell them, but to get more comics for my collection. The bookstore that we're in downtown Salt Lake now, we discovered and moved in here my daughter Melissa and I, moved in here some 17 years ago. We are offered books every single day. Most days we buy from a few dozen to a few hundred books, though I can definitely get out of control when buying books. I did a recent house call a month ago and bought 4,000 to 5,000 books. Took me about a week to haul them all out of the house. At some point, the physics of it all, hauling in 10 times more books than I sell into this store, is going to catch up with me, and probably this whole place will just sink into the swamp or something underneath, and there'll just be this empty, vacant hole here. Well over 90, probably 95% of the material that's offered to us we turn down. The single biggest reason is condition. You can have $1,000 book in poor condition, and getting $100 out of it is difficult. If it's falling apart, if it's incomplete, we don't go there. It's the hardest thing to learn, whether you're a collector or a dealer in the antiquarian book trade, is condition is the most important thing. So that's a big one. And the general public, they think a book, depending on your own age and perspective, a book from the 1950s or 1900 is considered old. Well, age, unless you're talking about incunables, which are books printed prior to 1501, age has got nothing to do with value. Just while we've been talking, a gentleman came in here and showed my rare bookman Kent a old family Bible from 100, 150 years ago. I can tell that just glancing at it while we're sitting here chatting. And they're worthless. But people think they're great treasures because, well, if a book's 100 years old, it has to be valuable, doesn't it? We have been printing and producing Bibles for more than 5 centuries. It's the best-selling book in the world. And then I try to find a nice, there's only, at this point I've given up on creative, but a nice way to tell them that their family Bible is going to have a lot more sentimental value to them than intrinsic value in the marketplace. People bringing unusual and unique books in here doesn't happen every day, but it does happen. And being in the book trade, it's something that you live for, to see something you've never seen before. That's partly what this is all about. And it has happened a number of times. Probably one of the most memorable ones is with an obscure Mormon book called the Book of Commandments. It's an 1833 precursor to one of the 3 Mormon books of doctrine and theology. The Book of Mormon, of course, 1830 is the first, and the second is the 1835 Doctrine and Covenants. This is a transitional precursor to the D&C, as we call it, called the Book of Commandments. It was destroyed by an angry anti-Mormon mob, and the type, the press, and the pages were thrown out the window. And the story is some Mormon girls gathered up the pages under their long skirts and hid in the cornfield with them. And the surviving copies of that book to this day are made up from those blown away pages, if you will. To date, 170 plus years later, there are 29 known copies of that book that have surfaced. The majority of those copies are incomplete, and a young 20-something man and his wife came in here many, many years ago. In fact, at the old store before this one, so 20 years ago. And he had 3 books that his dad had given him from Grandma's estate that were in a little drawer. They were all LDS books, Mormon books. One of them was the 1833 Book of Commandments. I said, I don't want to get your hopes up. I need to take this and collate it and make certain it's authentic. But if it were, and I simply told the young man and his wife that it was a 6-figure book, and he left the store. A couple of days later, he came back with his father, who was somewhat incredulous. And I said, well, again, I've got to authenticate it. But yeah, this book is worth $100,000 plus. They left it on consignment. I researched it. I made certain it was authentic. Turns out we collated it. It was only 60% complete. And we sold it then, that many years ago, for a couple of $100,000. The Book of Commandments today is the rarest Mormon book and is worth well over $1 million.
I found it in a flea market in upstate New York, and I really don't know much about it. I looked it up online and I couldn't find much information. I think it's in German, that could be why. It's just pictures, and they all seem to feature the same guy. I thought it was really cool looking. That's pretty much the only reason I bought it, especially for $2.
The book that you found at this flea market is called Das Werk by Franz Miserel. This is the 1928 first edition in German of Miserel's masterpiece. It's in really beautiful condition. Its value at retail would be $1,000 to $1,500.
Wow.
Antiques Roadshow, 8 years ago. I think this is my 8th or 9th season with them. I think 1997 was the first one. A few weeks before, this was their second time Antiques Roadshow had come to Salt Lake City. The producer, Sam Farrell, called me on the phone and interviewed me about coming and being a book and manuscripts appraiser for them. And he said, I've been calling around trying to find someone to do this, because they'd learned, I think, from their first time in Salt Lake that they really needed to have somebody aboard that knew something about Mormon material. There's 3 appraisers at the book table. Antiques Roadshow appraises in approximately 25-ish categories, and there's about maybe 70 to 80 appraisers per city. And they give maybe 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 pairs of tickets out. So collectively, we're seeing 12,000 items possibly, and collections too. Most of it is just run-of-the-mill, unremarkable material that's never ever going to get filmed or aired. So just like day-to-day here in the store, you just live for somebody sitting down that's got some extraordinary item that you know something about, and between the guest and the appraiser, you can have a conversation and tell a story. And that's so much fun. Some guests can be very difficult. The vast majority of them are absolutely wonderful, and they're very understanding. When you mean I'm not going to be on TV? Every once in a while you get a surly one. And I learned early on, there is no percentage in arguing with the guest on Antiques Roadshow. Only bad things will come of it. So I just try and find a workaround. I had probably a teenage boy one time hand me a paperback of To Kill a Mockingbird. It said, first edition, 1962. Well, you know the old saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. The young man was absolutely right. Harper Lee's famous novel was published in 1962, and that would be the correct first edition. But rather than try and explain to him that the first edition is a hardbound in a dust jacket, I asked him, I said, well, you know, you're right. Harper Lee, blah, 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 1962. So open your book up. And I try and get them to do it. I say, look at the copyright page for me. Read what it says here. Copyright 1962. Okay, below that. Oh, published in 1973. See, you have the 1973. Now I've gotten him to verbalize it. So now I got him on my side. This is the 1973 edition. Oh, and by the way, this is a paperback edition. The first edition of the novel was a hardbound in a dust jacket and would only have the 1962 date. And that way I get out of arguing with the guest. Let me say this about antiquarian bookselling. We live in this far distant corner of the universe that almost no one inhabits. And those of us, whether we're institutional librarians, private collectors, or we deal and trade in the books or in the antiquarian book trade, we're a tiny minority of increasingly of the population of this country. You're either a booker or you're not, you know. Book people, they're some of the most eccentric people in the world. We could, any one of us, collector or dealer alike, could bore you to tears with just trivial information about an arcane subject that couldn't possibly be of interest to anyone but ourselves. And there's just such quirky personalities in the business. I don't know that we always tend to be very good people persons. We're book people, and book people spend a lot of time in their own heads. And almost everything I know in my life, I've absorbed out of books. Yeah, there's direct experiences too, but books are really still this day the world I like to live in.